Good morning, and welcome to Tracking. Taylor Majors here for Andress Engineering Associates. This morning we've got part 2 of our October Rail Report, focusing on the broader economy. With that, let's get right to the numbers. Employment rebounded in October. On November 5th, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that 531,000 new net non-farm payrolls were added in the month. In addition, revisions to September and August added an additional 234,000 jobs to the total. That brings us to just over 5.8 million net new jobs created this year. That said, there are still approximately 4.2 million less people in the labor force than there were in February of 2020. So where have all the workers gone? Well, an interesting note from Goldman Sachs released at the beginning of the month noted that 3.4 million of the roughly 5 million people who have left the labor force are over 55. 2.5 million of those were either early or normal retirements. In other words, they were retirements, they weren't just layoffs or firings. The reason that's important, because if those were retirements, then we may not see those people come back to the labor force at all. You can see this pointed out where we still remain approximately 2 full points below where we were in February of 2020 on our labor force participation rate, and the same for the labor to employment ratio. Turning to our survey data, the ISM Purchasing Manufacturers Index produced a reading of 60.8% in October, down from 61.1% in September. And this marks the 17th consecutive month of manufacturing economy expansion. In the report, ISM Chair Tim Fiore said, Business Survey Committee panelists reported that their companies and suppliers continue to deal with an unprecedented number of hurdles to meet increasing demand. All segments of the manufacturing economy are impacted by record long raw material lead times, continued shortages of critical materials, rising commodity prices, and difficulties in transporting products, all of which we've talked about before. Global pandemic-related issues, worker absenteeism, short-term shutdowns due to part shortages, difficulties in filling open positions, and overseas supply chains continue to limit manufacturing growth potential. All that is a fancy way of saying it's a supply issue, not a demand issue. They are simply just having trouble getting parts, getting materials, getting people to build everything. All that said, demand does continue to expand as we're returning to pre-pandemic conditions. Industrial output was up 1.6% in October to 76.4%. Manufacturing output rose to 76.7% after being slightly down in September. The Federal Reserve reported the strongest increases were in material, consumer, and defense and aerospace materials. The consumer goods segment was largely benefited by an increase in delivered auto parts. Turning to our survey data, consumer confidence has been trending down over the past 3 months, but it rebounded slightly in October to a reading of 113.8. Survey participants cited one of their major concerns is ongoing inflation, which is now at a 13-year high. Just this week, Jerome Powell dropped the use of the term transitory when referring to inflation in public comments. He also cited that the Federal Reserve will begin accelerating the end of their bond buying program. Perhaps the ultimate confidence survey is consumer spending. It rose 0.6% in September and 1.3% in October. This marks the third straight month of increases. However, like we mentioned just above in our consumer confidence, inflation remains a headwind. PCE inflation was reported at 5% in October and has been at multi-year and decade levels this year. Many commodity prices have started rolling over, though, as we kept an eye on and cited in our last month's report, so we're curious to see how this transitions as we move into 2022. Thank you for joining us for part 2 of our October Rail Report. This has been Taylor Majors for Andress Engineering. For all your Trackmobile needs, contact Andress Engineering or visit www.andressengineering.com. Until then, keep it on the rails.